Life. My name is Ken Burkey, and John Loera is in the house.
I am in the house.
Yeah, and John, first of all, I'm interested in why you want to talk about this, but I think it's a great topic. We live in a culture and in a world where very busy.
Yeah.
Things, a lot of options, a lot of multitasking. So there's this phrase, I need to find balance in my life,
right.
Or I need to find a pace
right.
of life. And so you want to talk about it's not really finding balance, it's more about finding rhythm.
Exactly.
So talk about
different.
that and how that's different and why you think this is important.
Well, first of all, I think that rhythm is a great analogy because, when you define rhythm, it's about taking all elements of something and putting them together to work in sync, if you will. Music is a great way to apply that, where you take differences, strengths and weaknesses, starts and stops, and all kinds of different things, putting them together for some sort of a rhythm, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And life, life in general has all kinds of different rhythms about it. I mean, down to our own selves, our heartbeat, the way we live and operate, but just, the world in general has rhythm.
Right.
And it's interesting because it doesn't mean, like you said, that everything's in perfect balance, equal here and equal there. It's not that at all.
No, in fact, a song that is perfectly balanced is a boring song.
Right.
There's no crescendos. There's no slow parts, fast parts, big parts, quiet parts.
Exactly. Yeah. And when we talk about rhythm, of course, when I think about it with music or dancing or something like that has some sort of a great flow to it. What the end result is, and what's implied, is something very positive. When you hear the term that somebody has found their rhythm and is doing something, you can associate that in reality to success. Right? Because it's something is working well.
Right.
And
I found my rhythm.
I found my rhythm, and I have no rhythm when it comes to music or dancing. But
which is ironic. You're talking about this.
Which is ironic, but in life we can actually do that. And there's a great illustration, an old movie, and I can't even remember who's in it, but
Caddyshack.
No, it's older than that.
Okay.
And it's about a track and field star in high school, and this girl was a track and field successful runner or whatever. And one of the tricks that she had in how she was successful is that before every meet, she would have this song in her head. It wasn't actually audible, but it was in her head that she would find this beat and rhythm. And once she did that, right out of the gate, she would come out in sync completely. And so she would run these races and be successful based upon this little rhythm that she would develop in her head before she actually ran the races. So whether it was hurdles or anything else that she was doing, it was all about this rhythm. And what's interesting about this story is that the coach wants to her to teach it to the other track and field athletes. But it really has a life implication in it when they're talking about the movie, because it is really about how do you actually develop this rhythm that actually helps us navigate life, whether you're facing difficult times, whether you're wanting to attain things in life or just live life in general.
So again, I go back to there is that misnomer that's out there, how do you live a balanced life? But it's really not about, it's about how do you find your rhythm?
It's how do you find your rhythm in the sense that, because there are times you're pushing.
Right.
And you need to be pushing.
Right.
And then there's other times you're not. And
you need to rest.
And you need to rest. And it's all of those. And that is not a perfect balance.
No.
It's really much more, I guess you would say it's simple, but it's much more complex than that.
It's much more like rhythm, like music, than it is about. Okay.
Right.
So how do you find the rhythm of life? How do you get into that rhythm?
Well, looking at, again, music and applying it to music, unlike music, I think that, when you teach rhythm, when somebody, wants to develop rhythm, you can apply some of those principles in music as you can in rhythm in life. And there's 5 things that you can actually do to find this rhythm in life. And so the first one is this, and again, I'm applying it kind of to a music analogy, but the first one is you have to listen. And listening, hearing, you have to hear. And what I mean by that is, in life we're just faced with all kinds of choices, right? And the question becomes is where are we getting our wisdom to make our choices? Simply put, we talk about this a lot, but
no, it's important.
It's that, hey, we don't think about this often, but when we're faced with choices, big or small, we have to look at it and say, where do we attain wisdom from for direction in our life? And kind of that saying, what are we listening to in order to actually make those decisions in our life?
Right. So listening, again, we talk about it, but it's important to listen to God's wisdom.
Yes.
Listen, and that's the rhythm. there's the Message paraphrase just says this too, where it paraphrases Jesus to find the rhythms of grace.
Right.
Where
Right.
you find that rhythm is you have to listen to God's voice, because there's a lot of voices out there.
There is, and there's a lot of bad information.
Right.
But it's amazing. But the Bible is very practical.
Yeah.
And it's practical to living today.
Yeah.
And when you look at God's Word and you have wise people in your life, and you actually are getting direction from that, that really is a huge step for getting rhythm. It's what you're hearing in life. What are you listening to?
And we're not very good listeners.
No, we're not. And I don't think we consciously sit down every day and go, hey, where am I getting my wisdom from in the decisions that I make in my life? We almost do it subconsciously.
Yeah, the Bible talks about, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and then the joke is, well, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we really, our culture is we're all speak and,
Right.
and no listen.
Right. Exactly.
And I was thinking about it in the musical thing. If I'm not listening to the music, it would be hard. It's going to be hard. If I'm listening to all the distractions around me, then it's going to be hard to find that rhythm.
One of the greatest ways to be out of rhythm is bad decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it,
Yeah.
where you
It
go down
throws
this path,
everything
it
off.
throws everything off, and it's like, okay, well, can we step back? I mean, everybody makes bad decisions at times, but can we step back at times and go, hey, can I attain wisdom before I make those decisions?
Yeah. Well, the scriptures, the wisdom of Scripture says is, counsel, godly counsel is just huge. And so, we have pastoral partners, and, you're at a church service and somebody will come up and ask for wisdom. And it's interesting, some people will listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And other people don't.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll keep trying my way. And boy, you talk about, there's no rhythm in that life.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because the church, as we talk about these, the church is one of the big things about, talk about Green Valley, is it's a place to help people find their rhythm.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's not a dance class that we're having as a life skills class. This is these principles to help us all find rhythm.
Right.
So that first one is what are we listening to? What are we
listening to?
hearing?
Right. What's the second one?
The second one is feeling. It's that we have to feel to have rhythm. And what I mean by that is that we have to feel what God feels. And this is something that we've learned, and it's about caring for others other than ourselves. It's getting outside of ourselves. You hear a lot about in music, people have to, you get rhythm by what you feel. It's not just by what you hear.
Right.
And it's an important one, and we talk about our hearts breaking for others and breaking for what God's heart breaks, and really it's this feeling. And it's amazing to me, because finding rhythm in life often is about getting outside of ourselves. And we do that by feeling for others, by putting ourselves in situations of what is happening in other people's lives. And sometimes that's hard, because our heart does break when we do that. But what we hope is, and what God's intention is that leads to action.
Yeah.
We have to feel that. It's putting ourselves in situations to see hurting people and caring for hurting people and caring enough to put ourselves out there.
Yeah, I was going to say we have to be willing to feel that.
Right.
Because we can live a very sterile, balanced life, but never feel the pain around us to protect ourselves. But then that rhythm begins to happen. Because I think this is the way we're created, really, ultimately, is to be out there.
Yeah, it is.
We talk about it all the time, but healthy communities are businesses and churches and families who are putting themselves out there.
Yeah.
They're caring more than just the bottom line. No, the bottom line's important, and we have to pay our bills, we have to do all that. It's really getting to that place where we feel someone else's pain.
Right, and care enough to help and walk alongside them. I can't tell you how many people I know who are servants that are caring for others, and you see a lot of their life, and there's rhythm there. It's so, in a sense, counterintuitive, because we think about it going, hey, I'm trying to find rhythm in my life, but so much of it's not about me. And so you see people serving, and you go, wow, there's something about that, and I think you don't realize that until you do it. It goes, wow, I'm really hitting on all cylinders in my life. And this is one of those things about it's not about balance, right?
Right.
Because you could be dealing with stuff in your life, and maybe your life is a little bit out of balance here, and there is some settling there and some rhythm that happens when we just, again, go back to putting ourselves out there and getting outside of ourselves.
Yeah, we have a mutual friend who is very, very passionate about the homeless.
Yeah.
She's never been homeless, but through some personal exposure of seeing the plight of the homeless, she's just a huge advocate. And so she was telling me her and her husband are spending Valentine's night staying at the homeless shelter.
That's awesome.
Because it's their night to volunteer. It happens to fall on Valentine's, but you can just see in her, there's this rhythm of no, we're not missing this. This is live. We're not trying to control everything and this is our night. It's like, hey, there'll be other nights, but this is what. So you know who I'm talking about. There's a real rhythm in our life.
There is. It's a beautiful thing to see. And going back to the church being a place where people help people to experience rhythm, I think about certain ministries like the homeless, or you go to Common Ground, our food and clothing ministry on Saturdays. You go there, and there's rhythm there.
Yeah.
And there's tough stuff happening, and there's life going on, but there is a rhythm there.
Yeah.
And that rhythm exists because of people getting outside of themselves, feeling that. There's just this, but that feeling has led to action.
So there's listening, there's feeling. What's the third one?
Third one is timing. You have to have timing.
In music.
I have no timing.
Yeah.
But what I mean,
I just think of Steve Martin on The Jerk trying to clap and snap and all that.
I do that in church.
And
I can't get the timing right.
Well, Ginger Jacob, who's one of our friends that is on the show, she won't let her husband clap during music at church.
Benefit.
Yeah, for everyone else.
Throws everyone else.
So you got to listen, you got to feel. So the music analogy, just going back to, and then you need timing.
You need timing, and what I mean by timing is it's being in the moment. It's living today and what's right in front of us. Where are we at right now in life? It's so easy for us. It's natural to be looking forward, right, or to be looking backwards and missing what's right in front of us.
Yeah.
And
that's good.
I think we have to stop and go, okay, today, what is it today that I can make the most of? And it's a cliche in some ways, but it is so true.
Right.
I was talking to a young mom last week who was saying, I want to, when my kids get older, I want to go do this.
Yeah.
And yet, timing-wise, God's got her right here, her family right now, to be the best parent she can be in her family.
Right.
And it's looking at our situation where we are. And this might even be, hey, we're going through tough times right now. Yeah. How do I find rhythm during a tough time? And you can.
Right. Right. Well, and I think there's a very destructive word in our culture that's prevalent. It's a destructive word that just ruins rhythm, and it's the word someday.
Yeah.
Someday.
Yeah.
It just wrecks everything. It prevents you from being in that moment.
Right.
It prevents your timing. We just miss out on so much because we're waiting for someday. Our kids will grow up someday when I retire. Someday when my problems go away. Someday.
And it's all right now. This is what we have. And so our timing is to realize every single day that, I want to experience rhythm today. And one of the things that takes me out of it today is when I'm not in today. Period. The end.
Right.
And I think when you go back to, and part of this, these are all tied, and it's attaining God's wisdom about that. Bible says, today's the day God's made.
Right.
Be in it.
Right.
Be glad about it.
Right.
Because there's so
much. Who can worry about tomorrow? Today's got enough stuff going on. Be in the moment today.
Yeah. And I go back to also the feeling part, because there's a lot of people when you look at, caring for others and feeling for others, they're in the moment. They're going through stuff, maybe stuff that's not worked out, or I'm sure they have worries or regrets or whatever, but it's in the moment.
Yeah.
It's what God's put in front of us today,
It's good. That's good. Because I want to make sure we have time to review. What's the fourth one?
Fourth one is pace. And we mentioned it a little bit here, but it's about pace. And when we talk about rhythm, like we said before, there's starts and stops in that. There's times that we're pushing and we need to be doing that, but there's also times we need to rest.
Right.
We need to stop.
Yeah, and that's huge. And I think that takes a lot of wisdom. Our culture can tend to gravitate towards one or the other, where we're just going all 24/7, or we're trying to position ourselves to sit on an island for the rest of our life drinking.
Right. It's kind of both sides of that.
Yeah.
Our culture though has this tendency to say, hey, there's a status symbol about busyness.
Right. That's
where
true.
It's always this. There's a great book that's called Exhaustion is Not a Status Symbol, and it's written about that says, hey, building in some time of rest is just as important as this busy seasons, or or the pace that you keep.
Right.
And so there are times that you need to push that, like we said, but there is that time where we have to step back and say, it's important that we rejuvenate, because the power of our lives is not going to exist if we don't have some time to rejuvenate.
Yeah, you actually talk to people who are embarrassed to say they took a vacation, or they, what'd you do on Saturday? And you want to fill it all up with, rather than maybe you sat and read a book, or you just chilled, or and I think the opposite is true too. Sometimes we're just going to be in a season where we're going.
Yeah.
We're involved in something, of justice or serving. We're feeling. We're like, okay, God, you got me in this season. But then you have to take the time to rest. If a song never rested, if it was just,
at some point it'd be like, okay.
Yeah, it's enough.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be like, what, Freebird, that's a 13-minute song.
I think it is, at least
Stairway to Heaven, you're like, okay,
where are we at in this? You can turn it on at any point and you're in the same place. It's the same song.
Right.
But it is true. And
Right.
it's like, but our intent is to make a great impact in life.
Right.
And so there is that push.
Well,
and again, it's not about balance.
No, it's not about balance, because it's interesting. The scripture says, work, work.
Yeah.
But one day a week.
Yeah.
One day a week. The Sabbath. Now, the Sabbath wasn't to be some legalistic, why you just got to do it out of fear. It was actually made for us.
Yeah.
Jesus said the Sabbath was made for man to be a gift, to take our time to rejuvenate.
People,
and I think
for
we have
some
better
reason,
rhythm when we rejuvenate.
We absolutely do. There's a great analogy of, not that I'm going to punch you, but to have a power of a punch, if your arm's extended all the time, it has no impact.
No.
You have to pull back.
Right.
And it's step back at times and say, hey, by doing this, it's going to actually help me to have more rhythm in my life.
That's good. What's the last one?
And the last one is just you have to practice.
Practice.
You have to practice
So
these
music
things.
lessons. So the music analogy, how to have rhythm, you have to listen, you have to feel.
There's timing.
There's timing, there's pace.
And then you got to practice these things.
And
we
then
have
you got
do
to
this every
practice.
day.
My sisters hated. They had piano lessons. I think the reason I didn't learn piano is my parents were so
You didn't want to practice.
tired of paying for lessons my sisters never practiced, so they let me go outside and play.
It's the benefit of having older
Yeah.
siblings.
Well, we talk about practice because it's not, when you see somebody who is in rhythm, it doesn't happen accidentally. It doesn't happen just because, they're just naturally gifted.
Right, it's somebody who is making these principles habits. Like it's said that like 50% of what we do are habits, good and bad.
Right.
And the practice part of it is that because life is so dynamic that it's easy to fall out of rhythm. You can be in rhythm and out, and we go through ebbs and flows.
Right.
But if we're not practicing these principles, then it's much easier to get out of sync.
Right.
Or to find a place that we're at where we become exhausted, tired, discouraged. It's just all of those things. But it's hard to practice is being intentional and conscious to say, here are these 4 things I want to be doing every day. Actually 5, the practice part too.
Right.
Am I doing these things?
Not only does it take practice, but in order to practice, then it's a journey. It takes time, and
It
we
does.
want to be good instantly. But you talk to most musicians or bands that said, when we got together in our 20s, we couldn't play together. We were,
Right.
but as they continue to play, and all of a sudden things start to come more naturally, a little easier. It becomes more a little second nature, but that takes practice and time.
Yeah, that's a great point about the timing part because it doesn't happen overnight, and but it's very practical in the sense that you go, hey, every day I experience these. Am I getting up and looking at God's word or talking about getting some wise counsel and things? Am I putting myself out there every single day? The practice of, am I aware of what's going on around me in people's lives? How is my timing today? Am I making the most of today?
Right.
I mean, that's a practice, daily practice.
Yeah.
And how's my pace? I need to push today. I got some stuff going on that I'm passionate about or needs to get done. Or hey, have I gone through too many days of not slowing down?
Yeah.
Take a breath.
I love this because I think where Jesus says, come to me all who are weary and heavy burdened, and I'll give you rest. And then that's where that paraphrase, let me teach you the rhythms of grace. We have a friend, I won't mention his name, but he's kind of new to the community and new to faith. And when he first, and kind of new to our culture, the American culture, but when he first discovered grace, there was this anxiety about him, like, does God really love me? And is this? And there was every conversation, and I had a conversation with him just this week, and there's this rhythm that he has. And part of it is because he's listening to people.
Yeah.
He's staying connected.
Yeah.
There's this, he's involved, he's feeling it, he's practicing it, and just over time you start to see him just have this better peace. Then peace and rhythm have a lot, because you can be very peaceful in a very frenzied situation.
Absolutely. You can be busy, making a difference, which is God's intent for our lives, and yet there's a peace about that.
Yeah.
Rhythm is motion in a sense, but it's synchronized. It's things all fitting together, and I think in that sense, I think that's our lives, because when everything is in sync, whether it's busyness or slowing down or obstacles, there is a peace in that when you have rhythm.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's good
okay,
stuff.
I'm going to, look at how fast it went. Look at that.
I know.
Wow. You're just, I think time flies.
When you're having fun.
Well,
No,
when
you
John
weren't
shows
gonna
up, we pray that time flies. But hey, thanks.
You bet.
So rhythm, listen, feel, timing, pace,
practice.
and then just practice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good job, man.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for being with us here on The Basics of Life, and we will see you next time.
You believe